Hi, I'm Nancy Laney, founder and CEO of Peak Complyance. We are coming to you live from Orlando, Florida, where we are at SpaceCom this week. Come inside, visit our booth, and let's visit. And as you can see, we have found some amazing things. I'm sitting on the lunar rover that's normally at the Kennedy Space Center. It was built in 1971 or 1972. And this is an exact replica of the one that was on the moon. Hi, I'm Nancy Laney, founder and CEO of Peak Complyance. With me today, we have Frank Chimenti from Beyond Gravity. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Frank Chimenti. I'm the Director of Programs, the General Manager, basically, of the Titusville facility of Beyond Gravity.
Well, thanks for joining me here.
Thanks for being here.
So I understand you guys just recently got CMMC compliant.
Yeah, it was an interesting experience. It was a lot of hard work, some things that we had to create to make sure that our systems would meet the requirement and expectations of a system. And it was good. It took a lot up front to understand the why and what was going on. It was kind of, we knew it was coming, but the real impact of how it was going to the business. But I think once we accepted this new world, and then we just kind of dove right into it.
So looking back to what you were afraid, and to in the end, how big of a change was it?
Technically not from a IT perspective, not huge. There were some changes, a lot that's over my head, but very simple to do. I think for me, the hardest part then was the supply chain. How are we going to get our suppliers who are smaller, very small, and get them on board? And we had to come up with some creative ways, how, some of them we can't do anything about. We're kind of stuck with because they're single source, and we just can't lose that supplier. So we had to come up with...
And you send them CUI.
And we send them CUI. So so that was a challenge to find out how are we going to treat that data? How can they treat that data? And they have to slowly become compliant. And it's almost selling it to them and why it's really important. It forced us, okay, now we really have to find new suppliers for some of these things. And in other cases, we were able to find ways to buy COTS type parts. So some places, instead of just going out and buying a custom part, we would actually send out a COTS part, buy a COTS part, bring it in as not CUI, modify it internally. That would, and we didn't have to send out that data. So I made it kind of a workaround. Right. It made us vertically integrate to be compliant.
Well, that reduces the burden on your suppliers.
Yes.
100%. And it reduces your risk.
Yes. Yeah.
So and you're not sending CUI out to, who knows how well it's being protected at this point.
Yeah. And we know that there probably was some data leakage. Some of these suppliers are very small. Their system are not sophisticated at all. And at the end, I think it's best for us. It's best for our customers to be able to know that, okay, whatever data we're sending to them is something that is not CUI, and it reduces the risk for everyone.
So how did that impact your manufacturing process? Maybe you can tell us a little bit about your business.
Yep. So for Beyond Gravity, we do many different things, but at the site in Titusville, we make structure panels for satellites. And basically the box of the satellite we make, and we do that at a very high cadence. We're really great for constellation type work. And a lot of the parts are simple aluminum parts, so sheet metal, honeycomb metal, which is all not CUI until you cut it to shape, which is going to be the end product for the customer. But there are some parts that would be considered CUI because the end product, that what we're buying would be part of that end product. So for some suppliers, we have found that they are slowly going to comply to CMMC, but they're not there just yet. Others will never be.
Right.
And for those, we came up with this idea of buying a part that we would end up modifying so that it would not be CUI going out. I think, and as time goes on, and I think more people get complied, comply with CMMC will be going to those suppliers so that it mitigates the risk more that what we're sending them, if something does get through that should not have gotten through, we're protected.
Right.
But there was a lot of training with our engineering team and our supply chain to make sure when we go out and buy parts that we're not sending data that is CUI.
Perfect. Yeah. Supply chain is such a key part of this. And I think everyone really focuses on the CMMC implementation and not really on that supply chain component of it. So that became a significant effort, it sounds like.
Yes, it did. And I think we have a pretty good solution that we worked on together. And I think I'm very happy now that we can still use some of these suppliers that are very good, and some of them are going to eventually comply. So it's good.
Yep. And it's taking time. We were working with another company that had some European suppliers, and they flat out said, we're not interested. So sometimes it's going to take some creativity to work through those challenges.
Yeah. And I think that it will open the door for businesses in the U.S. to take on that, we can do that product here in the U.S. Because right now there were other, let's say, suppliers in Europe that maybe did a better job or whatever. They just kind of had the market. But if they're not going to want to get into this business or get compliant, then that creates a market for somebody else to jump in. And so I'm sure we're going to see a lot more of that.
I think we'll see a lot of shift in the market. So now that you've gotten to 110 points, have you found that's been a competitive advantage for you?
Oh, yes. The quotes or the RFPs that we're getting from some of our customers now are starting more and more to have the wording in there that you should be CMMC compliant, or at least be heading towards that. So we can go to our customers now and say, hey, look, we're at 110. We've self-assessed. We have our audit in the next few months. So by November, we will definitely be third-party assessed, which is very exciting. And our customers are very just happy and almost just relieved that it's just the box is checked and they don't have to worry about us.
That's amazing. Yeah. That's really good to hear.
Yeah.
I bet that gives you a lot of confidence in the bid process and where you stand in the rankings.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that is a differentiator between us and some of our competition because they haven't taken this step.
Oh, yeah. So that's going to give you even more opportunity.
It should. I think it's because it makes sense. Because why would these prime contractors want to go to a supplier that hasn't treated their own data or the customer's data in a way that's secure, but Beyond Gravity has?
Right. Yeah. That's really good.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I bet that's a lot to be proud of.
Yeah, we are. We're very happy. Yeah.
So how does your team feel about it? Are they excited about it? How did they feel going into it?
Yeah. So they were trying to understand. I think as soon as I started explaining this is a government related and how it's for security of the stuff that the U.S. government buys to protect the warfighter, to protect the country, and how we've become it's a competitive disadvantage for our country against our adversaries, and because all this data is being leaked and there's no control of it. That they said, why are we not? It almost immediately bought in, like that makes sense. Why are we not doing that?
Yeah.
So it was pretty quick buy-in.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, then the real world of what that means, and there's a learning curve, so everyone's getting used to that. But the time, I think, because we started so early, it gave us the time to get that training in.
Mm-hmm. Did you have to walk them through? As you're doing the training, did you have to kind of keep bringing it back and reminding them why we're doing this, or was it, because I imagine a fair amount of time elapsed.
Yeah, and so so it's not just the CMMC it's not just the CUI aspect, which is a critical part for our national security, but I also remind them, it's like, hey, this is our intellectual property that we're also protecting, right?
Right.
So there's some special processes and stuff that we do within Beyond Gravity and Titus Souls specifically that we want to keep guarded. We don't want to lose our competitive advantage.
Right.
That also reminded me, well, guess what? We also have your personal data in our systems, and we don't want that data being leaked out.
That's a really good point.
There's three, they're all important, and we all want, and that's really emphasizes why being CMMC compliant, having that cybersecurity in place is very important.
So as you went through the process, did you find that you could just implement CMMC and it was just kind of in the background, or do you feel like it really changed the culture of your business? in your operation?
It had to change the culture of the business. This is, I think in the past, I think most of us, IT was a back room responsibility. They got it. We don't have to worry about it. Understanding the bigger picture of why cybersecurity is important. Again, the CUI, the IP and the data of your employees. It's, to me now, a core responsibility of leadership and the entire organization to make sure that this data is protected. Safety, quality, and cybersecurity are all critical to make sure that your organization is successful.
So did that impact like your ordering and your ability for team members to go out and buy and order equipment?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, yes. So we were looking into a visitor management system, something very simple. And there's a lot of different options out there, all similar, capabilities and bells and whistles, But then when we started looking at, how's that data managed, there was 2 or 3 that this could not be used because basically the data was up in the cloud. And the last one was secure, and we decided to go with that solution. And you might ask yourself, well, why a visitor management system? Well, it's because we have customers coming in, suppliers coming in, and that data is important to keep within Beyond Gravity. We don't want the outside world knowing who's coming and going from our building.
Okay, well, good. That's really good to hear. Because I can imagine that as you're doing this, if a manager went out and just, bought a new tablet or bought a new computer, would that impact your ability to be compliant?
Yeah, exactly. And it would. I mean, there was another example of just a simple 3D printer where it was a great tool, very simple to use. It was very effective. You can quickly print out little assembly aids for manufacturing. And then we started using it and we realized again, oh my gosh, we can't just bring in this equipment. You got to look at how you can protect the connection between the remote user and the equipment and then the equipment from the outside world. And you just can't have this open portal. So now, if we bring in new equipment, if we create a new process that interfaces with our network, we look before we ask those questions and make sure, okay, are we protected? And then if we're not, that's fine. We figure that out before we bring in the equipment. So it's just another question you ask. If you buy new equipment, you're going to say, well, is it safe for our employees? Does it meet the quality requirements? And are we secure? Just one more question you ask, and you just plan for it. And it's not that big of a deal.
It's not, but it's the culture. It's yes. Adding that to the front end.
Yes.
Imagine if you went out and bought the 3D printer that went to the cloud and then plugged it into the network. The impact, finding out afterwards that, oh my goodness, now this is wasted investment.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I think that's what, so me personally, I've taken that I own this responsibility of making sure that our data within the Beyond Gravity Titusville is secure. So that means I take it as serious as I do quality and safety. And so now...
I really like how you put that. You put it right up there with quality and safety.
Yeah. It's really important. I mean, just going back to those 3 things that we're protecting. We're protecting CUI, the data for our government, our country. It's protecting our intellectual property that we spent a lot of money on and time and energy, and it's our special thing that we sell to our customer. And the data of our employees. It's really important to me that data doesn't get lost. And so any of those things start to break down. If you have a quality issue, the first thing that you do in quality is contain it. Well, the same thing with cybersecurity. If all of a sudden there was a breach of your security and you have this data leak, this river flowing of data going outside, the first thing you want to do is contain it. And it's a risk to the corporate, to us, and to our customer. So we want to make sure to me, that's why it's one of the core responsibilities. And now it's the culture is, you have to worry for everyone. Doesn't matter if you're human resources or in quality or in finance or engineering or operations. You got to ask yourself those questions. Is this safe? Is this the quality that we need? And does this meet the cyber requirements? And you don't have to be technical, but you have to have enough knowledge to ask those questions. So training is really important. Making sure everyone understands what does that mean? What questions should they be asking? And if they don't know, that's okay. That's why IT is there. Just bring them in and say, hey, we're going to do this. Is this okay? And they'll help you find a solution.
Absolutely. So you bring up a really good point earlier was when you have leakage. Did you guys have to implement an incident response plan?
Yes. Yes, and we do have one. And the plan is the first step, right? Very simple. You want to have a roadmap. You want to have a checklist of things you have to do. Who is involved? What are the inputs that you need? What are the outputs? Who do you need to communicate and let them know that this happened? But that's only the first step. You need to actually practice the plan. You need to have some muscle memory. So when this incident might happen, you are ready, and you would have some practice, because you're going to find gaps. You can't just pull off a plan, dust it off, and think you're going to go step 1 through 10,
right,
and it's going to work. You're going to find gaps. So these little scenarios, you practice them with your IT and your cybersecurity team. Like, what would we do? And I think that having that practice plan is very useful. I think also, just to add to that, the culture and the having people feel that they can be transparent, and because they have that trusting environment. And so I believe in like a no blame culture, not a culture where there's anything goes, there's no accountability, but you don't immediately blame the person for causing this problem. You work with them and to solve the problem. And I believe this is something you have to build over time.
Yep.
You build that trust. And that trust all of a sudden becomes transparent. So when there is an issue, they don't hide it from you. They'll come up to you and say, hey, look, we have a major problem. We need to solve this.
Yep.
And you work with them to solve it. And then you do your lessons learned, your corrective actions and your trainings. And then, you deal with, with that person and help them so next time. But the fact that they notified you gives you contain it much faster.
Yes.
You don't have that leakage continuously going, because you don't want them hiding it or trying to fix it themselves, because
you never know how they'll never be able to contain
exactly.
it. Yeah, exactly. That comes back to leadership. Having an intentional leadership when you implement this.
Yeah, I think that when it's setting that culture in the company, in your role, whatever leadership role you're in, so that the people that work for you understand that this is a team effort, that it's not just you and them, it's us, right?
Yep.
And so we are all responsible to make sure we're doing things safe, that we have good quality, and that our data is secure so our organization can be successful.
Absolutely. So what was one of the things that surprised you about implementing CMMC? Was there things were you surprised about the level of detail?
Yes.
Were you surprised about what did you not expect?
It was, I think for many years, IT in my head has been completely back there. It was just not my problem at all. And I was just stopped. I was not interested since probably 2000. I was just like, whatever. It was just like, they got this figured out. And then you see how complex it's gotten, and you start to realize, oh, wow. There's so many things connected.
Yes.
All of our equipment now is connected to the network, and each one, it's great because it gives you that flexibility. It gives you that power of being able to remote into a piece of equipment to see what's going on with it or download data. And so it's
efficient.
Very efficient.
Yes.
Very efficient, but it makes you very vulnerable if you don't have these bridges, I'll call them, between your equipment and your IT.
Right.
If those bridges are just left open, then you're very vulnerable. So you need a good system in place to not only lock those bridges down, but to monitor them to make sure that nothing breaks into it. Because you still want the flexibility to remote in, but you want to do it securely so that your data
in a controlled fashion.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's for sure. One of the biggest challenges I've found is that with some clients, they've implemented the technology, but they don't have the documentation or the policies and the procedures, because you've got to wrap all of that around the technology in order to be compliant. The technology is only 25% of the project. 75% of the project is documentation, policies, procedures, the culture, the training, the accountability, the roles and responsibilities. All of that has to be mapped out.
Yeah. The paperwork sounds like you're just checking boxes, but it's more than that, because it gives you that roadmap of how you do things and when you do them, because you can't remember all this, so you need to document it. So yes, you need the paperwork, but the paperwork is only as good as the people doing the work.
That's right.
Right. So if the people if they understand why they're doing it and they're actively participating in it, making sure that it's being done, then it's effective.
Yeah. That makes a huge difference, especially I found that doing implementations, having leadership engaged in helping to guide the team on the implementation and empowering them with the authority to make the changes and to do the implementation makes the project so much more successful. But it only comes when you have a buy-in from the leadership at the top.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's the case for almost any kind of change management. No matter what it is, if you don't have your leadership, if your leadership doesn't care, why are you going to care?
Right.
So you have to, and so I can care to my team, right? But I do have, in a way, need to explain, why am I caring? And once they start to understand, I think they deserve that that time to explain, this is why I care. This is why this is important.
Yeah.
I need you to buy in because of the bigger picture. And I think you need to share that information with the team. And I think once they understand, there is buy-in, and they will help you be successful.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Could you have done it without them?
No, never can.
Never.
No. The team, especially let's say the team I have right now in Titusville, Beyond Gravity, is amazing. They not only with the CMMC aspect, but just to what we've accomplished in the last couple of years. Everyone is focused on the bigger picture. How do we grow and become more successful? Now in the last year we've bolted on CMMC, which is an extra layer of complexity that we have to do and get used to. But they understand, if we're going to grow, if we're going to take on more business, we need to have this system in place to make sure all of our data is safe.
Absolutely. So what does the future look like for Beyond Gravity now?
Growth.
Growth?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of good things happening. The space market is really expanding. There's a lot more constellations, a lot more companies. There's all kinds of these crazy ideas of different space stations and landing on the moon. I mean, it's really a wonderful time to be in this market. To me, it's the best of humanity. This next step, I think when you work in the space industry, I think that it's like the best of humanity.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is my first time at SpaceCom.
Yeah.
It has been just amazing and eye-opening at what the leading edge is. I mean, this is the bleeding edge of space is what we're looking at here today.
Yeah. I always go back and think of like the Vikings, or they're sitting there in this little wooden boat out in the ocean,
Right.
and like, how did these people? It was so crazy, and it's almost the same, because the technology, yes, it's all great, but it's still there's 4 astronauts that have to go around on the Artemis mission around the moon. I can't imagine doing this,
Right.
But there's and Beyond Gravity has a few different components on that thing, and we're very proud of that. And we took it
congratulations.
Yes, I had nothing to do with it. There was awesome people.
That is fantastic.
Within Beyond Gravity that worked on that. And it's very exciting. And
wow.
It's humbling to be responsible. I can speak for them because I talked to the teams over there that have done this.
Yeah.
It's humbling to know that your work is on there. So
that is.
Yeah. When you talk to the teams over there that worked on it, they take it extremely serious and they're proud of it. And I'm very excited to see Artemis launch and those astronauts to go around the moon. It's great.
This is going to be amazing.
Yeah.
I will be watching it with new interest now.
Yeah.
I had no idea that you guys had parts on there.
Yep.
Congratulations. That's amazing. So if you were talking to another leader of a company, what's your best advice for them on CMMC?
Yeah. I would first take the time to understand the purpose of CMMC, why it's valuable. Again, you have the CUI of your government customers, or you want to protect that data because the government is at a competitive disadvantage now, all this data being leaked out. You have your intellectual property, which is your company money that's been invested to create these new products, to create these new services. You have the data of your employees. So to me, this is why. If you can appreciate that and understand that, the next step is to own it. As a leader of your organization, of your team, whatever it is, it's important to own the responsibility of these things, safety, quality, and cybersecurity, because without those, your organization will be at risk. And then explain it to your team. Why is this important? It's across the entire team. There's, of course, IT, there's human resources, there's engineering, operations, finance. They all have to be rowing in that same direction of having this culture of awareness of cybersecurity. Give them the training so they know what they have to do, who they have to talk to. Have this management of no blame. Don't go and when your employee comes to you with any information, if it's quality, if it's cybersecurity, it doesn't matter what it is. Listen, help solve the problem, and you will create this culture of trust and transparency. So when there are issues, you can stop it right away. come up with solutions, and get moving again. Because with any operation, any company, the whole point is to turn that crank. And if your crank has to stop, because sometimes you have to stop, as soon as you can get it back going, then the better you are. And finally, it's a growth enabler. It's a business enabler. So you'll be able to take business on from the U.S. government, which is very important. And also, it's a competitive advantage. There might be 3 or 4 different companies that are all offering something similar to you, but if they haven't jumped on the CMC bandwagon yet, then that means you'll have a much better chance of winning that work.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Thank you. Great.
Appreciate you being with us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Do you have any last parting words?
Yeah. It's CMC is it's not easy. There's a lot of things that have to be done, but I think it's worth it because of the data and what I've already explained. And just like anything, it will make your business more successful. And I think that it's best for the whole team to be involved, because that's how you'll win.
Thank you so much, Frank.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm glad you were able to join us today.
Yes, it was great.
And I will be watching. I think Artemis is launching in 2 weeks?
Yeah, so I think early the first week of February, hopefully. Yeah. And then if it misses, and
it's
be
the
March.
window.
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
the
of course.
window.
Yeah, so I'm hoping for the first one, and I hope it's not at 4:00 in the morning. So
Exactly. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, thanks again.